Happening today, we have the Federal Reserve's decision on interest rates, and you can see it right here. If we zoom in, we are taking a look at, where is it? The Fed interest rate decision. Now, right now, we are currently sitting at 3.25% interest rates here in the United States. We are expected today, or at least forecasts are expecting us to get up to 4%, or a 75 basis point or 0.75% interest rate hike. Now, we've got to talk about this, how it might impact the dollar, how it might impact gold, and if you trade indices, that might be also interesting to you as well. Now, this is happening at the time of making this. It's about 5 hours away, but in the next 5 to 10 hours, we'll probably get some volatility on the dollar. So let's take a look. So here we are, we've got a chart pulled up of the US dollar. We're looking at the dollar index, or the DXY. And what we can see here on the 4-hour chart is we have actually recovered from the lows. Let's talk about this from a perspective of where we think the dollar is going on various different news releases. Now, of course, the first thing I want to tell you guys is that I don't know what that interest rate is going to be for sure. Likely it will be 75 basis points, but we need to talk about the outliers or the opportunities that could present themselves if something changes. And this is my bias going into today's news. Let's say that we have, for example, interest rates coming out at higher than expected, or 100 basis points, okay? This would be a full 1% interest rate hike, getting us up to 4.25%. We could also have the standard of 75 basis points, which is the expected amount, or the very unlikely but big surprise of 50 basis points. And we have to ask ourselves, what is this going to do to the US dollar? So these three scenarios are things we need to consider going into today's release. Now, of course, 75 basis points, this is the expected. The 100 basis points, what is that going to do to the dollar? And what's the 50 basis points? Well, let's go through it. Let's first say that we actually get a 100 basis point rate hike here in the United States. What's that going to do to the dollar specifically? Well, if we take a look at USD, then likely what's going to happen with that is we get a massive push to the upside. This would be very bullish for the US dollar. Let's take a look at the other side of the coin would be, what if they actually come out with less of an interest rate hike than expected? Well, that would be negative for the US dollar. Thinking about that from a perspective of, okay, well, if interest rates are, they rise but less than expected, the dollar might need to correct and pull back a little bit, causing some downside. Well, what about 75 basis points? What about if it comes out just as expected? Well, if that happens, you might say, well, that would just mean sideways, right? Well, in my opinion, that would actually still be dollar bullish. And here is why. The reason that just coming out as expected could still be bullish for the dollar, and hence why I'm pretty much bullish going into this release, is because a 75 basis point rate hike still shows the Fed is willing to continue to raise rates and to stay hawkish on its attempt against inflation. Now, one more thing I should add there, of course, is that we're going to need to pay attention later on, after the actual release of the interest rate decision. We're going to need to hear what they have to say about their next interest rate decision, which I believe is in December, where they're expected right now, I believe, to do another 75 basis point hike, but I could be incorrect about that. So fact check me if you need to. But let's take a look at some other charts. What about XAU? What could this do to the price of gold? Now, gold, if you've been watching the price of gold, has been really struggling. You can see gold on the daily chart has been just in a massive decline for a long period of time. So question is gold bullish going into today's news? Well, let's take a look at this and we'll break it down piece by piece. It's pretty much going to be the opposite of what we saw with the dollar, because again, these two often compete with one another. We take a look at a 100 basis point interest rate hike. That's going to probably shoot gold through the lows even in the next couple of days. That would be my opinion. So that would be the surprise. Very bearish for gold in that case. Take a look at 75 basis points. We've been bearish, but I'm just going to say this is kind of neutral for gold. So this wouldn't do too much, slightly bearish if anything. And then 50 basis points would be probably basis for a really strong gold rally. If this happens, in this case, this actually might be an opportunity to look for dip buys on gold. If you get a break and retest opportunities, we could talk about that in a moment when we shift to the technical side. Let's take a quick look at the SPY really quick, just from a stock market perspective for the indices traders out there. 50 basis points going to be similar to gold, a massive rally. 75 basis points will probably just be as expected or sideways. And then finally, if we're taking a look at the 100 basis points, this would be devastating for the equities market. So taking this perspective, we'll go talk about some of these in terms of a technical bias. This is my forecast in terms of what I'm thinking for each one of these major assets based on the fundamentals. Well, let's talk about the dollar here for a second. I'll show you guys a pair that I'm interested in, which is dollar yen. So if we do get a retracement here on dollar yen a little bit further, maybe on the 4-hour chart, we can pull this up. If we do tap back into support, I will be looking to possibly pick this up long, just because this is two parts. I want to be long the dollar, but I also want to be short the Japanese yen. So a retest of this area at 146 looks attractive to me, and we'll move on from there. That's basically where I'm at with dollar yen currently. We take a look at Euro USD. If we, of course, if we see a strong news release for the dollar, 75 or 100 basis points for the US dollar, we very well could potentially see a break of this structure. And for me, if you get a break underneath this, a close outside of this, retests on the sell side still look attractive for Euro USD for me. We'll take a look at USD CHF as well. So here's the dollar against the Swiss franc. And again, for this one, if I'm looking at this thing from a bullish perspective, in most cases, I'm looking just to buy dips, buy retracements, but really, I've mentioned this recently, I want to see this thing take out a high. I want to see this thing get strong above resistance before I'm really too interested. So probably the least interested in my personal opinion. Really, I like dollar yen and euro dollar currently. So now let's shift gears a little bit here. We'll talk about gold for a moment. So we mentioned gold, likely to remain bearish on the higher time frames. But if we get the surprise, what I would say is if you get a big spike, like a big move to the upside on gold, watch for a break of resistance above the 1675 level. That would be cues for me to probably look for possible, turnaround on the gold market. It's the unlikely scenario. So this is not what I'm saying I think is going to happen. This is the unlikely scenario that would shift me to potentially be bullish. But until further notice, this area is resistance, and in a downtrend, I would be looking to sell this first. So if I'm wrong about that, like let's say I take a sell trade and I'm just totally wrong. So I sell here, my stop loss is up here, and let's say just gets totally taken out. Then I might look to shift possibly to the other side of things if the fundamentals have shifted. But from a technical perspective, we do have key resistance up in this area, 1670, 1675, somewhere in that region. Looks sell side heavy to me on the gold market. Even with this little rally, yes, you're getting a little bit of a boost prior to the news. I would just be cautious that we're not, buying in front of a big freight train of a downtrend if we get that 75 or 100 basis point rate hike in the United States on the decision that comes out later today. So there you go. That's my opinion on gold. We'll take a look now also at the S&P 500, which has been sort of halted or paused prior to the news release. We've seen a little bit of a rally recently. I am actually bullish on this, but very cautiously, especially going into a big release like this. Again, the market will find any reason right now to sell off. So we do have supportive structure in place. And if we get a little bit of a retest, I am bullish on these things. So I'd be interested in possibly trying to get long on a deeper retracement, with the idea being I've got to probably cut my idea if we get underneath that 37.40. So I do like the idea of possibly getting long. This is a bit risky to try and go long before a major news event like this. But the scenario of like maybe trying more than once on the indices looks attractive to me. I actually like the stock market long right now. And I've pointed this out recently. If you've been watching my videos recently, you know that I've been talking about US 30, German 30. You've got UK 100 up there, JP 225. You've got some of the major indices coming up into the buy category, with a bit of momentum and some of the other factors that we pay attention to on the Edge Finder. By the way, you guys, we are doing our Black Friday sale. In case you have not heard already, the Edge Finder and our VIP membership are currently a massive 40% off with the code down below in the description. If you don't already have access to the Discord and you would like to join us inside of the group, you get access to all of my trades being shared, and you can also bundle it with the Edge Finder if you want our market scanner as well. But you get trade breakdowns, an analysis with each and every trade. You also get it from myself, Frank, and Ivan. We share our trades with full explanation. So if you're interested in that, check the links down below in the description, and I hope to meet some of you guys inside of the Discord. So trade safe today with everything in front of us with the meeting. I do wish you well in your trading, and see you back in the next video. It looks like you made it to the end of one of my videos. Thank you so much for supporting my content. It really means the world to me. And down below in the description, I put together some of my best resources for aspiring traders who are looking to improve. I've got some free downloads that could help you, some broker recommendations, and if you'd like to join our Discord or get access to some of our trading software, all of that will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.